Every time we argued, my girlfriend would start a countdown on her WeChat moments, because we once agreed, if the Cold War lasted 3 days, it would mean a breakup by default. 10 years of love, and she used that single sentence to keep me on a leash for a decade. When she broke our appointment to register for marriage for the 44th time, this time for her childhood sweetheart, and posted their marriage certificate on her WeChat moments, I suddenly didn't want to be a simp anymore. I chose to let go, liking the post and sending my blessings. But she got angry again. Patrick was just joking. He accidentally made it visible to everyone. Do you have to take it so seriously? Besides, he just wanted to experience what it's like to get married. I'm a doctor. What's wrong with letting him experience it once? It's just a certificate. Why are you being so passive-aggressive? Go apologize to Patrick on WeChat. Tell him you misunderstood. Now, when he gets over the shadow of his divorce, I'll take some time to get the certificate with you. I laughed. This was the 45th time she asked me to pay the price for someone else's emotions. I hung up on her directly. Soon after, her countdown on WeChat moments started again. But this time, I didn't send messages again and again to please her. Nor did I stand downstairs at her building all night, punished and apologizing. Instead, I submitted my resignation. From then on, we would be worlds apart, never to meet again. Chapter 1. I hung up on Luciana's 13th call. The screen dimmed. Moments later, it lit up again, a WeChat message. Dominic Tang, you've got some nerve now. Dare to hang up on me. You mess up and still act like you're in the right. I stared at it, didn't reply. The second message came right after. You've got 5 minutes to post an apology on Twitter, or we're done. I'd heard that line at least 100 times. Every time, I'd back down, for the so-called big picture, for the 7 years we'd been together. But today, I just looked at the words quietly, as if I were reading the nonsense of a stranger. When she saw I wasn't reacting, she started a countdown on her WeChat moments. 3 days. The picture was of an empty office. 3 days of silence meant a breakup by default. That was her rule, the chain she'd used to keep me bound for 7 years. Not long after her post went up, Patrick made one too. He even tagged me. Played a little joke with Luciana. Didn't mean for it to go public. Didn't expect Dr. Tang to react so strongly. Won't dare joke with him again. Don't want him getting angry next time. Luciana was the first to like it. She replied, this is his own problem. Patrick, don't take it personally. The colleagues at the hospital, the ones who needed her approval for their promotions, quickly chimed in. Exactly. Director Tang's being too dramatic. She's the dean's childhood friend. What's wrong with a little joke? No wonder Dean Lin's been hesitant. A man with no sense of the bigger picture really does need more evaluation. Don't be upset. Patrick, we're all on your side. I forced a smile. Exactly the same as always. When Patrick sprained his ankle, she canceled our appointment to register our marriage and drove across the city to pick him up. Her reason? He's all alone in Beijing. If I don't help him, who will? When I had a high fever and performed surgeries for 48 hours straight until I nearly collapsed. All she sent was one message. Take care of yourself. Don't delay tomorrow's consultation. Patrick often, intentionally or not, showed off the soup Luciana had made for him, or his new pair of limited edition sneakers, and when the cuff of my white coat ripped, I stitched it back myself, one thread at a time. I used to think she was just too soft-hearted to say no. Now I understand. There's no such thing as right or wrong, only love, or the lack of it. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, the heater blew warm air that felt suffocating. I handed in both our ID cards. The staff member in uniform glanced at them, then looked up at me. There was sympathy in her eyes. She pushed my ID back across the counter. Sir, she said politely, your girlfriend's record shows she's already married. She must have thought I didn't hear her clearly, because she added, would you like to double-check that? The noise of the hall seemed to drain away. I heard myself murmur a soft Then I took back my ID card and forced what must have been a terrible smile. No need. Thank you. Behind me, a young couple let out a cheerful exclamation. Our window had just opened up. It was a good day. A day for getting married. I looked down at the neatly filled out registration form in my hand. Every word on it was written by me. Slowly, I folded it in half, then again, and tore it to pieces. The scraps fluttered down like exhausted butterflies into the trash can at my feet. I had filled out that registration form 45 times. Given her 45 chances, this was the end of it. Chapter 2. My online resignation request was stuck in the dean's office. A colleague from Human Resources discreetly reminded me that I'd have to get Dean Lin's seal myself. He gave me an address, a KTV. I looked at my phone screen and almost laughed. Luciana Lin, the woman who treated the hospital like her home and her work like her life. The one who demanded full formal attire at every academic conference, forbidding even the slightest hint of carelessness. And yet, she was at a KTV during work hours, all because Patrick liked to sing. The private room was thick with smoke. I pushed open the door, and the first thing I saw was her, Luciana and Patrick. Heads leaned together, singing a sickly sweet love song into the microphone. When Patrick saw me, he raised an eyebrow with teasing arrogance, the curve of his lips carrying a deliberate provocation. A few young doctors from the hospital immediately gathered around. "Oh, Director Tang's here? I told you. That 3-day countdown won't even last a day before he comes crawling back. Our Dean Lin really is something, one word from her, and she's got Director Tang completely under control. Come on, stop talking, pay up, pay up." Their voices weren't loud, but just enough for everyone in the room to hear. I frowned. I'd heard words like these countless times before, but never once had they irritated me like this. "I'm not here to make peace." My words drew a round of laughter. "Oh, don't pretend, Director Tang. Everyone knows you're Dean Lin's ultimate simp, can't drive you away no matter how hard we try." I couldn't be bothered to explain anymore. I took the resignation papers out of my folder and slapped them onto the table. "Dean, sign it." Luciana was about to pick up her pen. Patrick caught her wrist and gave it a playful shake. "My turn to sing, Luciana." She immediately put the pen down. Then, taking out her personal seal from her bag, she tossed it toward me, as casually as throwing out trash. "Stamp it yourself, and next time, don't come to places like this. You're disturbing me and Patrick when we're trying to relax." I looked at the seal, the very same one that even the vice dean wasn't allowed to touch, the symbol of her absolute authority. She used to wear white gloves every time she stamped a document, as if it were some sacred ritual. But now, just to keep singing with Patrick, she'd thrown it at me like it was nothing. I picked up the seal and pressed it hard at the bottom of the page. The red ink spread like a splash of glaring blood. I gathered my papers and turned to leave. Luciana stopped me. "Wait." She tossed over a USB drive. "Finish Patrick's SCI paper for his title review." I couldn't even remember how many times I'd done this, made wedding clothes for someone else. All I knew was, every paper I stayed up all night to write bore someone else's name. Every surgery I performed until dawn was credited to the department head. I used to believe Luciana whenever she said we needed a sense of the bigger picture, that we had to think for the hospital as a whole. I believed her. I thought she saw everything I gave, but those sacrifices only ever earned her a sense of entitlement, and progressively bolder orders. Now I wasn't part of her hospital anymore. "I won't do it. I already." My words were cut off by Patrick's aggrieved voice. "Luciana, if Dr. Tang won't do it, fine, then I won't apply." Luciana instantly softened. "What nonsense. That can't happen." She turned to me. Her gaze went cold. "Dominic, don't you know your post already made Patrick very unhappy? Now I'm asking you for a favor and you're balking. If you keep this up, do you believe I can make it impossible for you to work in the whole medical circle?" I sneered inwardly. When my father's surgery had failed years ago, she'd only said, "My condolences," over the phone, cold and distant. Now, over Patrick's title evaluation, she was frantic as if the sky were falling. "Do as you please," I said flatly. The private room fell instantly silent. Shock showed across Luciana's face, unmistakable. Patrick let out a light laugh and tried to smooth things over. "See, Luciana, I told you, Tang's just playing hard to get. Wants you to coax him more." Luciana believed it immediately. The surprise on her face vanished and she slipped back into that composed, confident queenly posture. Her tone softened considerably. "All right, Dominic, I know you've been under pressure lately. I've been neglectful. You quietly help Patrick finish the paper, and in 3 days I'll go with you to register. Okay?" Another empty promise, another painted-out pie. Too bad, I had no appetite left for it. I didn't answer. I turned and walked away. The colleagues behind me started their snide commentary again. "Ah, why be so proud? Just wait, by tomorrow at the latest, he'll be crawling back to make peace." A nasty impulse rose in me. I wanted to see them utterly defeated. I snorted and looked back at them. "Fine, then you just wait and see." Chapter 3. My resignation was approved quickly. I immediately went to the best public tertiary hospital in the city. Top surgical talent is snatched up everywhere. The new hospital's director interviewed me personally and decided on the spot. He not only offered me the position of deputy chief of general surgery, he also assigned me an expert apartment in the city center. I could finally move out of that dilapidated staff dormitory. Luciana always said I had no ambition in life. She didn't know that almost all my salary had gone into equipment upgrades and research funding at her private hospital. I thought that was our future too. On moving day, I saw Luciana and her family at the entrance of the upscale restaurant beneath my new apartment building. And Patrick. The four of them looked perfectly happy together, like a real family. I instinctively hid behind a nearby pillar. The scene reminded me of the first time I went to her house. I brought carefully chosen, expensive health supplements, my palms sweating with nerves. Her mother served me a bowl of thin, tasteless noodles. When I offered to take them out for a proper meal, her father scolded me. "You don't know how to save, no wonder you won't get far." The gift I brought was taken and given to a relative's child. At the time I told myself they were simply frugal by habit. Now, by comparison, I looked like a clown. Patrick, we all know about you and Luciana, came Luciana's mother's voice, amused. Not like Dominic, who's all wooden, does surgeries day and night. No sense of fun. Luciana's father joined in. Yeah, our hospital getting first in the city this time was thanks to Patrick. He knows how to pull strings with the health commission leaders. I stood in the shadow, shaking with anger. That evaluation. I led the team, stayed up nights for a month, organized thousands of documents, ran 3 mock presentations. We fought our way through dozens of hospitals to win it. I thought she'd be proud of me. Instead, my achievement was credited to Patrick. I looked at Luciana. She only sighed. Make do. After all, it's been so many years. Her tone sounded like someone talking about an old piece of clothing she'd worn too long, reluctant to toss but ready to give up. Luciana's mother continued, her voice openly disdainful. Luciana, I'm telling you, Dominic brings bad luck to his family. Look, his parents died young in an accident. If you stay with him you won't have a good outcome. Brings bad luck to his family. Those words cut deep into my chest. My eyes went red in an instant. Years ago, Luciana's parents were in a major car accident in the neighboring city, bleeding heavily and needing rare blood plasma. It was my parents, they were doctors too. They drove all night to retrieve plasma from the blood bank and rushed to the neighboring city. To avoid a truck running a red light, they and the car plunged into the icy river. The plasma was saved. They never made it out. Luciana's family cried then and promised they would treat me like their own son. But now, there was no compensation, no repayment. Instead I became the one they called a jinx. I couldn't stand to listen any longer. I was afraid I'd lose control and run up to them and ask whether their conscience had been eaten by dogs. I turned and walked away quickly. The restaurant lights were bright and warm. They couldn't reach into my heart anymore. Chapter 4. I turned to leave. Well, if it isn't Director Tang. Patrick's voice carried just the right touch of surprise, and the smugness he couldn't quite hide. Luciana's family all looked over. Luciana instinctively put down her chopsticks, her brows knitting together. Dominic, what are you doing here? Patrick immediately followed up, his tone dripping with mischief. Luciana, Dr. Tang really can't let you go. Wherever you go, he shows up. Luciana's face darkened at once. She seemed to believe Patrick completely. Her eyes on me were full of irritation and suspicion. Dominic, there's so much work at the hospital. What are you doing here? Why have you become so paranoid lately? I said nothing. It was all just absurd to me. She kept going, her tone like a boss scolding a subordinate. You, right now, go back to the hospital immediately. This month's bonus and special allowance are all cancelled. Her father chimed in, his voice brimming with disdain. Luciana, I told you, stop keeping people like this around. No ambition at all. Look at Patrick, capable, thoughtful, helps you with everything. Patrick pretended to play peacemaker. Dr. Tang, just apologize to Luciana already. She's only doing this for your own good. The whole family worked together seamlessly, like actors in a farcical play they'd rehearsed 100 times. Luciana, thinking she'd pushed enough, delivered the final ultimatum. Dominic, I'm telling you, if I don't see you before midnight tonight, we're officially over. And from now on, don't even think about stepping foot in my hospital again. I looked at her, calm as still water. She would never know what I'd just overheard. That night, Luciana waited in her office until 11:30 p.m. Dominic still hadn't come. Annoyed, she tugged at her collar and called her assistant. He didn't come to the hospital today. The assistant answered cautiously, no, director. She hung up, furious. Then she went to her usual bar, ordered a drink, and subtly had her assistant accidentally leak the address to Dominic. It was her old trick, throw a tantrum first, then offer a way out. Dominic always took it, always came to comfort her. But tonight, minute after minute ticked by. Her phone stayed silent. She began glancing at the door repeatedly, a mix of hope and tension creeping in. She even checked her phone's signal several times, wondering if something was wrong. That feeling of waiting was foreign to her, like a tool she'd used for years suddenly refusing to obey. Just before the countdown reached its end, her assistant burst in, breathless and excited. Director, he's here. He's downstairs, and he's holding flowers. At those words, Luciana's taut nerves instantly relaxed, her brows smoothed. Her usual queenly confidence returned. She lifted her glass, arrogance restored, and ordered coldly, go tell him, he's late. If he wants my forgiveness, it won't come that easy. In her mind, she was already calculating how to play it, how to reassert control, but the assistant blinked, confused, and interrupted her. Director, what are you talking about? The person downstairs is Mr. Patrick. Luciana's hand froze midair, the wine glass trembling slightly. The proud smile on her face solidified, and then shattered. Chapter 5. The atmosphere in the private room turned awkward instantly. Those colleagues who had bet I would come back to apologize looked at each other in silence. The assistant hesitated, then asked carefully, "Director, aren't you going down to see Mr. Patrick? He seems to have been preparing this for a long time." Luciana let out a cold laugh. "Why would I go down? What does it have to do with me?" The assistant froze. "But, everyone knows you and Mr. Patrick are close. When did I ever say I liked him?" Luciana cut her off sharply. "He's just a childhood friend." In that moment, what truly bothered her wasn't the men downstairs staging an elaborate confession. It was me, the men who no longer even answered her calls. She unlocked her phone, staring at my blacked-out profile photo, and stubbornly tapped to dial. The cold, mechanical voice replied, "The number you have dialed is currently on another call." I had blocked her. Luciana's face darkened, her expression stiffening bit by bit. She turned, took her assistant's phone, and dialed a number she could recite in her sleep. This time, the call connected. My voice came through the receiver, calm, polite. "Hello, Director Song. How can I help you?" Luciana trembled slightly at the familiar tone, her eyes burning red. "It's me, Dominic." Luciana. The moment the words left her lips, I hung up. Every subsequent call went unanswered. Luciana returned the assistant's phone, her expression blank, emotionless. She opened another can of beer, downed it in one go, and said evenly, "Didn't you say we were going downstairs? Let's go." Downstairs. The setup was grand. Flowers, balloons, a crowd of onlookers. Patrick stood at the center of a heart-shaped candle display, tears streaming down his face. "Luciana, I've liked you for so long. Please be my girlfriend." The crowd chanted around him. "Say yes, say yes." At that very moment, I was sitting in a quiet bar across town, watching the short videos on my phone. The most popular one was titled, "Heartfelt Confession, Beautiful Dean Touched to Tears, Lovers at Last." In the video, Luciana accepted Patrick's flowers, and Patrick sobbed as he pulled her into his arms. Expressionless, I turned off the screen. After all, a heart is made of flesh. I had truly, wholeheartedly loved her for 7 years. How could it not hurt at all? I kept drinking, one glass after another, until someone gently took the glass from my hand. "Director Tang, that's enough. You've got a big surgery tomorrow." I looked up. A girl in a simple white t-shirt was smiling at me, bright and unguarded. It was Robin, my new colleague, a brilliant young surgeon. Unlike most female doctors, she didn't wear that perpetual mask of seriousness. Her eyes were bright, like summer stars caught in a clear night sky. She sat down beside me naturally, as if we'd known each other for years. "Getting upset over people who don't deserve it is just punishing yourself for their mistakes," she said, swirling her glass of lemonade. "Not worth it." Then, without asking, she called the waiter, paid the bill, and half-guided, half-carried me home. I wasn't drunk, really, just tired of moving. At my apartment door, she made sure I was steady, then waved with a clean, warm smile. "Get some rest. See you tomorrow." She paused, then added playfully, with a hint of admiration, "My brilliant lead surgeon." I watched her figure disappear into the elevator, and suddenly, the night didn't feel quite so hard to bear. Chapter 6. The surgery the next morning went perfectly. I was the lead surgeon. Robin assisted. Our coordination was seamless. We hardly needed words. One glance, and she knew exactly what I needed next. When the operation was over, I leaned against the wall, exhausted. Robin handed me a bottle of warm water, twisting the cap open before passing it to me. She smiled. "Director Tang, full marks today." I looked into her bright eyes and murmured a thank you. For the first time, I felt how light and genuine it could be to work alongside someone. No scheming, no exploitation, just mutual trust and silent understanding. That peace didn't last long. The moment I stepped out of the operating room, I saw Luciana. She stood at the far end of the waiting area, wearing a crisp business suit, arms crossed, expression unreadable, just like before, when she would show up to inspect work at the hospital. The sight made something heavy settle inside me. I didn't acknowledge her and kept walking toward my office. She hurried to catch up and blocked my way. "Dominic, we need to talk." I stepped around her, continuing forward. She blocked me again, reaching for the medical file in my hand. "Let me take that back to your office for you." She was trying to create contact, by any means. "Let's go downstairs for a coffee." "Okay." Her tone was cautious, almost pleading. It was a side of her I had never seen before. The cafe's air conditioning was strong and cold. Luciana spoke first, offering an explanation for that night's confession. "Dominic, about that night, please don't misunderstand. I didn't know Patrick would do that. There were so many people watching. I just didn't want him to lose face in front of everyone. That's why I didn't reject him outright." She watched my face carefully as she spoke, waiting for me to soften like I always had. "Afterward I made it clear to Patrick, I'm not seeing him." I listened, my heart still, almost amused. So, to spare him embarrassment, she could accept his embrace. Then what next? Would she also marry him, just to spare him heartbreak? Oh, right, she already had. I interrupted her defense, my tone calm. Everything you're saying has nothing to do with me anymore. Luciana's expression shifted slightly. I continued, I only came here to make something clear. I lifted my head and met her eyes, the same beautiful eyes that had trapped me for 7 long years. 3 days of silence means breakup. That was your rule from the very beginning. Her pupils contracted sharply. I finished, slowly, word by word. Luciana, please keep your own promise. We've broken up. I used her own rule, the one she'd wielded to control me for years, to seal the coffin on the absurd love between us. Chapter 7. Luciana probably never imagined I'd use her own rule to turn against her. She froze for a long time before finding her voice again, her face full of unwillingness. Dominic, do you really have to do this? She leaned forward, eyes blazing, pulling out what she thought was her final card. Our hospital is about to start a major international collaboration. You're the core of that project. We promised we'd make it the best in the country. Remember? She thought I'd still be swayed by ambition and shared dreams. When she saw that I wasn't moved, she immediately switched tactics, the pitiful expression I knew too well. Dominic, don't be like this. Okay. I'm about to go abroad for a research exchange. Don't make me worry about you while I'm away. That was always her way, a slap followed by a sugar-coated apology. Too bad. I couldn't taste the sweetness anymore. Just then, her phone rang. It was Patrick. She glanced at the screen, frowned, and hung up, but he was persistent. The phone rang again, and again. Eventually, she picked up. From the other end came Patrick's panicked voice, loud enough for me to catch words like my mom and surgery. Luciana's face changed immediately. She slipped into that familiar tone, gentle, patient, full of care. All right, don't panic. I'll come right away. Don't cry. Your mother will be fine. I'll be there in 20 minutes. When she hung up, she hurriedly grabbed her bag, speaking quickly. Dominic, Patrick's mother is sick. I have to go handle it. Then she drew another one of those promises she'd always dangled like candy before me. Wait for me to come back. Once I'm back, we'll go get our marriage license right away. And just like that, she rushed out of the cafe, even forgetting to pay the bill. I watched her back as she left, my heart utterly calm. She was always like this. My problems, no matter how big, were small things. Patrick's problems, no matter how small, were everything. Luciana went abroad. Patrick followed, and my world finally went quiet. At the new hospital, I thrived. I completed several complex surgeries in a row and quickly gained a reputation in the field. Robin often came to my office under the pretext of academic discussion. She would bring me coffee from the best cafe downstairs or share interesting medical cases. We got along effortlessly. Whenever she was around, I felt relaxed. Our colleagues noticed too, often teasing me. Director Tang, Dr. Lin is such a great girl, you'd better not miss your chance. Some even gossiped in private. Do you know who Dr. Lin's family is? Her father's Professor Lin Jinghua, the top neurosurgeon in the country. Her mother founded the biggest pharmaceutical company in China. The guys chasing her could line up from this hospital all the way past the Third Ring Road. Hearing that, my chest tightened involuntarily. I looked over at Robin, patiently explaining post-op care to a patient. Her white coat neat, her smile gentle and warm, like sunlight breaking into the cold corridors of the hospital. But that light, it was too bright. So bright, it made me feel small. I remembered Luciana's parents' words, no future, wooden, social climber. I thought of myself, just a boy from a poor rural town who clawed his way up by studying harder than anyone else. Robin and I, we were from 2 different worlds. From that day on, I started to distance myself from her. When she came to discuss cases, I stuck strictly to work, never an extra word. When she brought me breakfast, I found an excuse to pay her back the next day. When she invited me to dinner after work, I declined, saying I had a surgery scheduled. Smart as she was, Robin soon sensed my withdrawal. One night, she sent me a WeChat message. Director Tang, did I do something wrong? Did I make you dislike me? I stared at those words, my chest tightening painfully. I didn't dislike her. I was just afraid. Afraid of repeating the same mistakes. Afraid I wasn't good enough for someone like her. After a long struggle, I finally replied, with a line cloaked in politeness, but cruel all the same. No, you didn't. You're great. I just think if we get too close, people might misunderstand. The typing indicator stayed on for a long time. So long I thought she wouldn't reply. Finally, she sent a short message. Okay, I understand. Sorry for bothering you. Her gentle understanding, her retreat, felt like a needle driven straight into my chest. I set down my phone and stared out at the lights of 1,000 homes beyond the window. A crushing ache welled up inside me. It was me. I had pushed away the only light that could have warmed me. Chapter 8. After that, between Robin and me, there was truly nothing left but work. We cooperated smoothly on the operating table. We discussed patients politely during rounds. When we crossed paths in the hospital corridor, we nodded, exchanged a brief greeting, and walked past each other. She never brought me breakfast again. She never asked me out to dinner. Sometimes I'd glance at her. She was always focused, head down, writing medical notes or smiling gently at her patients. It was as if that bright-eyed girl who used to chase after me, calling me my brilliant lead surgeon, had never existed at all. My life returned to the same sterile calm as before, clean, quiet, and lonely. Time passed quickly, and winter arrived. Patrick's WeChat posts still came often, mostly photos from abroad, and sometimes Luciana appeared in the frame. Occasionally, former colleagues would drop hints in conversation. "Dominic, Director Lin asked about you." I only smiled and said nothing. Eventually, no one mentioned it again. I thought the story between us had completely ended, until that day. After an international medical symposium, she came back, and the first thing she did was come to my hospital. She carried several bags, top-tier surgical model kits and a few rare, out-of-print German medical books, all the things I had once dreamed of owning. She handed me the gifts, her voice cheerful, but her tone held a careful gentleness I'd never heard before. "Dominic, I'm back." Then she explained, eagerly, "Don't misunderstand, there's nothing between Patrick and me. His mother had surgery abroad, and I just went to help as a doctor." She looked at me, testing the waters. "You aren't mad anymore, are you?" I looked at her, at that perfectly measured mix of hope and vulnerability on her face. For a fleeting second, I almost forgot that she, too, had once been capable of gentleness. But that feeling disappeared just as quickly. "Our hospital's collaboration project, I've still kept your place on the team," she added, as if that would tempt me. I just smiled quietly, didn't say a word. My silence must have misled her. Seeing my faint smile, her expression changed, that familiar look of pride and self-assured victory returned. She thought I was still the same Dominic, the man who would surrender the moment she softened her voice. She stepped closer, reaching up to adjust the collar of my white coat, a gesture she had once used often, casually intimate. I stepped back, deliberately, and precisely avoided her touch. Her hand froze in midair. The smile on her lips stiffened. I spoke calmly, cutting through the silence first. "I'm sorry, Director Lin. I'm doing well at my new hospital. I have no plans to change jobs for now." Luciana's expression darkened instantly. She frowned, her tone sliding back into that old, familiar note of reproach. "Dominic, are you still angry with me? I've already lowered myself so much to come find you." She still thought this was about anger. I interrupted her slowly, speaking the words I had rehearsed countless times, the words I most wanted her to hear. "No," I said, looking at her, even smiling a little. "I'm not angry anymore. I just don't love you anymore." Luciana froze completely. The color drained from her face, inch by inch, from displeasure, to shock, to panic, until only disbelief remained. A pale, hollow disbelief. That single sentence cut clean through all her defenses, stripped away her pride, her certainty, her control, and made her face the cruelest truth she'd never dared imagine. Her, I didn't want anymore. Chapter 9. That night, my department held a celebration banquet for me. I had just received the Outstanding Young Physician Award. I'd had a few drinks, but I wasn't drunk. When I got back to my apartment building, I saw the last person I wanted to see, Luciana, and beside her, crying pitifully, was Patrick. She was holding a bottle of red wine, probably taken from the banquet. She looked terrible. Her hair was messy, her eyes bloodshot. All the proud, composed air of the dignified hospital director was gone. She looked like a woman on the edge of madness. She stood in front of me, thrusting the bottle toward me. "Dominic, I was the one who submitted the application for that award for you. And this is how you repay me." I looked at her, feeling only disgust. "Please move aside." She refused, gripping my arm with surprising strength. "I don't believe it. You said you'd always stay by my side, that we'd make the hospital #1 together." She was clinging to faded promises, trying to convince herself they still meant something. I couldn't shake her off. Then, another hand reached out, firm, steady, and pried Luciana's fingers off my arm. It was Robin. She had just come from the same banquet, facing Luciana Lin. Her expression was icy. "Director Lin, please control yourself. Director Tang just finished surgery and had some drinks. He needs rest." Then she turned, standing protectively in front of me. In that moment, I looked at her small but steady frame, her straight back, and something inside me broke open, collapsing inward. Luciana froze for a few seconds when she saw Robin. Then she sneered, as if suddenly finding the reason for all her failures. "Well, look who it is." The little seductress. Her eyes turned venomous as she glared at me. "Dominic, so she's the reason you're so determined to leave me, huh?" Stop pretending to be the victim. You two were fooling around behind my back, weren't you? You pathetic. Before she could finish, a sharp slap echoed through the quiet hallway. Robin had struck her. Her face was cold as ice, her voice cut like glass. Keep your filthy mouth shut. Luciana was stunned, then went wild. Swinging back at her, the two women clashed. Robin, despite her delicate frame, moved with surprising speed. Luciana didn't stand a chance. Within seconds, she was thrown to the ground. Security guards rushed over and pulled them apart. Luciana wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, eyes blazing with hatred. What? Did I hit a nerve? She spat. You're some spoiled little princess with a silver spoon. Why are you throwing yourself at a phoenixman like him? You and Dominic, a pair of liars, perfect for each other. Phoenixman, liar. The words stung like needles in my ears. I looked at Robin, this woman who had just fought for me, her cheek marked with a red scratch, still standing in front of me, defiant, protecting me. All the emotions I had been forcing down for so long, everything, broke free at once. I stepped forward slowly. Under everyone's shocked gaze, I raised my hand and struck Luciana hard across the face. The sound cracked through the hallway like thunder. The world went silent. My eyes burned red. My jaw clenched tight. I stared at her, this woman who had once consumed 7 years of my life, and delivered my final verdict on what we had been. I'm grateful, I said coldly. Grateful I finally see you for what you really are, a bitch. Chapter 10. That night's chaos finally ended when the security guards broke it up. Luciana was dragged away by Patrick. Half pulled, half carried. I stood there for a long time before finally sending a message to Robin. Sorry, Anne, thank you, she replied almost immediately. No need to apologize. I did it willingly. Though, maybe you could make it up to me with a cup of hot cocoa. We met downstairs at the cafe. I looked at the faint bruise at the corner of her lips, my chest tightened painfully. Luciana's voice still echoed in my head. Phoenixman, pathetic. Those words stabbed right into the softest, most fragile part of my pride. I looked at Robin, a girl born into privilege, radiant, warm like sunlight, and then I looked at myself. Apart from this white coat and a scalpel, I had nothing. What right did I have to let her stand beside me and be dragged into the mud of gossip? When she looked at me with those bright, expectant eyes, I still said the cruelest lie of my life. We're not suitable for each other. Her smile froze. Slowly, it faded away. She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded softly. All right. I turned and walked out of the cafe without looking back. Winter came, and with it, news of Luciana. Without me, her golden surgeon, the reputation and surgical success rate of her private hospital plummeted. The final blow came from Patrick. His mother's operation at her hospital had failed, triggering a major malpractice dispute. To secure a higher settlement, he spread every bit of dirt he knew about the hospital. In the end, the place was shut down and investigated. Luciana was ruined, abandoned by everyone, trapped in the ruins of her own making. All of it felt like something from a past life. That day, I was on my usual ward rounds when it happened. A distraught patient's family member suddenly pulled a fruit knife from his coat and charged at me, screaming, "Give me back my father's life." It happened too fast for anyone to react. I instinctively stepped back, but it was too late. Just as the knife was about to pierce me, a white shadow lunged forward, shoving me out of the way. It was Robin. She must have been following behind me. The blade tore across her back with a sickening sound. Blood burst out, staining her pristine white coat, so red it hurt to look at. I caught her as she fell, her face pale as paper. For a second, my mind went blank. The world fell silent. Outside the operating room, the corridor lights glared too white, too bright. I sat on a cold metal bench, for the first time in my life feeling what real fear of losing someone meant. It turns out, there's something worse than a broken heart. Watching the only light in your world fade before your eyes. The surgery went well, but she had lost too much blood. She remained unconscious. I stayed by her bedside, holding her cold hand, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. At midnight, snow began to fall, the first snow of the year. In her sleep, Robin suddenly frowned, whispering my name, tears sliding from her closed eyes. Dominic, don't push me away, please. Those words shattered every wall I'd built inside me. Tears fell uncontrollably down my face. I lowered my head and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. Her eyelashes trembled. Slowly, she opened her eyes. She looked at me, weak, but smiling. I knew it. You couldn't let me go. I broke completely then, buried my face in her warm palm, my voice hoarse beyond recognition. I'm sorry. I'll never push you away again. Outside, snow kept falling, silent, endless, and inside me, for the first time in years, the light returned.